Hey one and all. Today I'm coming back with something I didn't expect to come back with. It's a topic that wasn't on my list of topics to discuss, but I really felt it was important to dip my finger into this one. And by dip my finger, I definitely mean figuratively, not physically, because if I was to physically dip my finger into it, well, things would go all bad. Because what I'm discussing today is coronavirus and its potential impact on the 2020 World Cup season. And beyond the potential impact on the 2020 World Cup season, I'm also discussing its impact on the Asian Combined Champs, which are coming up in Chongqing, China in late April. Most of you will have now seen that coronavirus is a thing. It's been all over the news. It's a new pandemic that has been declared as a public health emergency by the World Health Organization. And the implications of what the virus can do are quite literally deadly. At the time I'm producing this, there is over 15,000 confirmed cases, the vast majority of which are in central China, and there are more than 300 deaths. What this brings us is an approximate mortality rate of somewhere in the range of 2 to 3%, which may not sound like much, but when you compare it to the flu, which is one of the major killers every year, and has a mortality rate of around 0.19%, you start to realize how dangerous coronavirus could be to us. Now, in April, we have 2 World Cups scheduled in China. We have a World Cup scheduled in Wujiang for bouldering, and then just a couple of days later in Chongqing, we have a Speed World Cup scheduled. Following that will be the Asian Combined Championships, also scheduled to be held in Chongqing, China. For those of you that do not know the geography of China, the coronavirus came from Wuhan. Wuhan is an inland city of around 5 million people, approximately halfway between Shanghai and Chongqing. A little bit closer to Chongqing, to be honest. But what that means is that both the Wujiang and the Chongqing World Cups are very likely to be in what we will call the infection zone. So at this stage, it looks implausible that these events will go ahead. That also doesn't take into account the difficulties of traveling to China, even if we wanted these events to go ahead. If we get the okay, if a vaccine is found, there's a good chance that travel will not have returned to normal for China yet. A lot of countries aren't allowing people to fly from China into their countries. And of course, people can't go to China because flights are being cancelled. Flights are being cancelled en masse. So it's looking less and less like it will be a going thing. I know from New Zealand, which obviously is my country of origin, I cannot currently get a visa to travel in this time period. I also know from contacting my travel insurance company that if I was to willingly travel in this period to China and to contract the coronavirus, there is a very good chance that I would not be covered for it because I'm going into a known risk. Where does that leave us? Well, we can afford to lose 2 World Cups. In the greater scheme of things, losing 2 World Cups is neither here nor there. You know, when you compare it to the humanitarian impact of this crisis, we are just a sport. And the same thing will be said about the Asian Combined Champs, of course. Although the difference with the Asian Combined Champs is it has direct implications for qualification into Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And by that what I mean is that the winning male and the winning female will be granted a berth to compete in Tokyo. If, as I expect it will be, Chongqing is cancelled, is it possible to find a suitable replacement venue in the time frame available? Or are we going to have to basically wash that continental championship? So we're going to have to cancel it and say, okay, that it's not a go because of coronavirus, which is a perfectly reasonable response. Now, the IFSC in their handling of this crisis have been really good. They've been really upfront. They released a press release last week, and what they announced was that they were going to be sending, I think, 10,000 face masks to the Chinese Mountaineering Association for them to pass out between their members, to share with them, which is a really important thing to do because face masks are at a premium in China at the moment, and we need to do everything we can to slow the spread of this infection. The other thing they said is that at this stage, no decision has been made on whether the World Cups and the Asian Continental Champs will go ahead What they have to do is follow the situation, analyze, see what the international community is doing, see what the advisories are from the World Health Organization, from governments, etc., before they decide to go ahead. And this is very similar to what's happened with a load of other sports. FIA, who are the governing body of automobile racing, have said the exact same thing about the Formula E race that is coming up in China, and they've said the exact same thing about the Formula One race, which is held in roughly the same period as the Asian Championships would be. At this stage, they're observing the situation and they will make a call in a timely manner. You can't ask the IFSC to do any more than that because they need to understand the facts and then make a judgment call based on those facts. So, as I discussed earlier, what are the implications of cancelling a World Cup? World Cups require a lot of preparation. If we cancel 2 World Cups, if it's done in a timely manner, the impact to the athletes will be low, the impact to the federations will be low, but it does impact the athletes who are looking to do an overall season and would be hoping to have a score that they could potentially drop, because what it does is it brings it down to 5 World Cups in bouldering and 5 World Cups in speed. Now, if there are 6 or more World Cups in a season, you drop your lowest result. If there are 5 World Cups, that is no longer an option. So what that means is anyone interested in competing in the World Cup series is effectively committed to attending all the other 5 competitions, hoping they don't get injured, hoping that they can stay in condition and fit. Asian champs. Asian champs is a whole different kettle of fish because, as I stated earlier, it affects Olympic selection. And if it is cancelled, there is nothing I have seen which outlines a contingency plan for this. Now, many of you will associate me with the IFSC. As you know, I'm a long-term contractor for the IFSC. I have been their photographer for 5 years now, going on 6. But I'm not an employee of the IFSC. I'm not in the sport department. I don't deal with all of these things. What I do is I read the rules. Dug into the Olympic qualification guideline. I dug into all the IFSC rules I could find online, and I found no contingencies for the cancellation of a qualifying event for Olympics. I expect they will try and hold the qualification event somewhere else. That would be the logical choice. But logistically, it's incredibly difficult to find a wall which is capable of holding speed, lead, and bouldering, that has the volunteer infrastructure at short notice, that has the holds, everything like that. There are very few places where that could be done at short notice. But we also have to face the realistic chance that we just can't run a qualifying event, that it just will not happen. Already some Olympic qualifiers in other sports have been cancelled. Some have been moved where possible, but others have just simply been cancelled. The World Athletics meet that was being held in China has been cancelled. Various other events have been cancelled. The half marathon in Hong Kong has been cancelled, for instance. So, we cancel it. What happens then? All that I've read gives me no clear guideline for the IFSC to fill in athlete spaces where the criteria is not met through the pre-existing selection channels. What I expect will happen is that those places will go to the next available athletes from Hachioji 2019, the World Championships in combined, which was itself the first major Olympic qualifying event. Some may argue that they need to be Asian athletes selected because that is the point of having an Asian Championship, of course. But we're already looking at a continental landmass which is highly represented in the Olympics. You already have 4 Japanese and 2 Chinese qualified for Olympics. So there's a good chance that that won't be a factor, and they will simply go to the next available athletes on the qualifying list, which is still complex because with the other continental championships to happen before that, that can all change. For instance, the next available athlete in the women's side is Anouk Joubert. Anouk Joubert is well placed to qualify. However, if Anouk or Fanny qualifies through the European Championships in Russia, well, in that case, it's got to go to the next person. Next person in this case is Sharon So. So perfect, because we are looking at an Asian, kills 2 birds with 1 stone effectively. On the guys' side, a little bit more difficult. The next available is Yannick Floe. Of course, he cannot now qualify because Jan Hoyer and Alexander Megos have already qualified for Germany, so you need to step down to the next available. Then you're looking at Drew Ruana. Drew Ruana can only qualify if a second American does not qualify through the Pan American Championships, which are being held in a couple of months. So as you can see, there's layers of complexity here. I expect what will happen if the Continental Championships do need to be cancelled is, as I said, that they will go to this list. This is pure speculation, but to me it seems the common sense thing to do, and that they will then select the next athletes available from that list, which could be really providential for some of those athletes, but could be really, of course, disappointing for the guys that lose a chance to qualify for the Olympics. But in the light of the scale of the coronavirus, is that really a big deal? It's a very selfish thing, and of course we're selfish people, and when you get highly charged athletes that are highly trained and have focused a lot of time on things, the disappointment is huge. But at the end of the day, we're not going to risk anyone's lives putting them in a position where they could get infected with coronavirus and potentially die or potentially pass coronavirus to others who could also suffer. So in summary, how is coronavirus going to affect the 2020 World Cup season and the Asian qualifying events? And this is only a short-term view. This is not looking at a global spread of the disease and what happens if it reaches true pandemic scale. But in the short-term view, what happens is we lose 2 World Cups and we potentially lose an Olympic qualifying event in the Asian Combined Champs. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on this. Your guys' thoughts on whether the whole thing is being overblown, whether people are scaremongering, whether people aren't taking enough precautions, what they think the IFSC should be doing, what they think the athletes and federations should be doing in light of this pandemic. Anything like that, love to read it in comments. Please comment down below. As always, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends that I'm doing this, and yeah, let's see how this goes.